Tinny from Mini Bowl Design, and today I'm up in the studio, and this video is being illuminated by a 12 volt LED light called a corn light. It's got like 100 little LEDs all in a circle looking, and they're yellow. It looks like an ear of corn, but anyway, so much for that trivia. My controller the other day wasn't working right. It's supposed to shut off when the battery gets down to 10.5 volts, and it shut off at 12 volts. So I did a little research on it and found out it's just a cheap controller. And most people that had bought them were, after 2 years, they were changing them because that's what happened. It keeps shutting off at a higher and higher voltage. It wears out. Real cheap Chinese junk. So anyway, I ordered a new one, and we've had enough sun, so this one is staying above 12 volt. The gel cell is a working voltage of over 13, so I'm okay. I don't use them that much anyway, not for hours on end. I use them in the evening some. And I've got a new controller coming. The first one I bought was only like $8. It's this same controller now, which I assume is probably a lot better controller because it's been like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I think, since I bought the first one. Anyway, it was $25. Ouch. But anyway, it's going to be here in a day or two. Now, speaking of things being here in a day or two, they called me yesterday, told me that my Lear truck cap was in, and scheduled me to have it installed on Monday at 10 a.m. So they've got it in-house, and Monday at 10 a.m. we'll shoot in and get it installed, and that'll be fun. I'll finally have a cap on my truck. Began to think that was never going to happen. Okay. Went out this morning. Now, yesterday I was building beer can rings, and I fully intended when I finished to get the orders out. That did not happen. By the time I finished up the beer can rings, there was not a lot of Tinny left, so Tinny went in the house and called it a day. Shouldn't have. Should have gone back out and done the orders, because when I got up this morning, I had a lot of orders. Too many. So I went out and went to work and got everything up to 8 o'clock done. Now, from 8 o'clock until now, I've gotten another 3 or 4 fairly significant orders, so tomorrow morning I'll probably be behind the 8 ball again, but that's a good thing. But as of 8 o'clock this morning, I was all caught up. Getting really low on aluminum and plastic. I've ordered, and it should be here in a day or two, so hopefully I have enough odds and ends to get me through till then. I took some items out of the store that aren't relevant anymore. One of them being the Big Gulp and the Slimline remote, because I don't sell any stoves that those will work with anymore. Also the SS non-adjustable remote, because I don't sell any stoves that work with anymore. Everything's all snorkel technology now, so there's nothing I sell it'll work with. And it was kind of a pain trying to goof around and make those, for nothing, basically. I haven't sold a Slimline remote in quite a while, and a Big Gulp even longer than that. I sold one SS non-adjustable in the last couple of days, but they very, very few of them. They're basically a deck packer setup, and with the newer stoves, you don't even need it anymore. The snorkel stoves will burn long enough, so it's just a waste of time. Now, I've noticed a lot of stoves that people have built. If they put legs on them that hold the pot up, built-in legs, or most of them are built-in legs. Well, now the problem with that is that the heat from the pot and the heat from the flame hits the legs, and the legs being aluminum, they all are, the heat travels down the legs into the base and boils the alcohol in the base of the stove, and one of two things happen. It either flares right up and burns way too hot, Or two, if it's remotely fed, like with a slimline remote or an SS non-adjustable remote or an adjustable remote, I'll start pushing the fuel backwards, back up into the remote, and the stove won't get any fuel. And the stove will die right down. And after it dries down, if it cools down enough before it goes out, then the alcohol will start coming back in again once the alcohol quits boiling, and it'll come back up and take off again, and then it'll heat up and die down, and you're going right back forth, back forth. Not an ideal setup. Anybody that's selling a stove with legs on it, I've watched their videos, and I've watched it. I've seen right on their videos. I've seen their stoves boiling the alcohol and pushing it up the line. You know, I've watched it. I've had my own stoves do it. Second thing about the remote is you've got a lot of alcohol that's just looking for a place to leak. And if anything goes wrong, you get the height set wrong or anything, and flood the stove, you can get in trouble fairly quickly. You get an alcohol fire going and it's being fed by the remote. Heaven help you if it burns the fuel line off, which is probably one of the first things it does. If it really floods and it goes out onto the surface the stove's on, it's going to burn off the fuel line, and then you're done. Yep. So I hesitate. I've always hesitated to sell those remotes because I was afraid a newbie'd get a hold of one and get in trouble with it. I've never had any report of anybody ever having that happen, but the potential was there, and I don't like that. And I don't like building that particular product because you've got the leak factor, and there's a lot more there than you realize. Had a friend once, speaking of remote, he bought a I don't know what you call it. It runs on propane. It's a great big pot with a propane burner underneath it. And you put a turkey in it, and you deep fat fry the turkey. Well, he fired it up. Had a couple of beers and fired it up. Had a couple more beers and let her get up to temperature. Full of peanut oil, I think. And they lowered a turkey into it and went in the house, out on the back porch, and sitting there waiting. It only had to cook like, I think, 45 minutes. Sitting there drinking a couple more beers. Saw something out the back window. It didn't look quite right. Opened the back door, and the porch was gone. All the vinyl siding on the side of the house was gone. The windows were starting to crack. Required a call to the fire department. Burned the hose right off of the propane tank, and the hose was just basically a flamethrower going every which way. Well, that's what I always felt about these remotes. You know, I don't know if it's ever happened, but I've done it myself. Goofing around, just seeing, you know, not paying attention, goofing around, seeing. Quite often I'll do the worst case scenario just to see what's going to happen, and I found that your best friend is a bucket or a pot of water. If something like that happens, you throw a pot of water on it, and it'll go out immediately because the alcohol is water soluble, and put a little water with it, it goes right out. But if you don't have a pot of water right handy, could get in trouble. So anyway, that's where I am there. Now, one more thing I want to tell you was I did a little survey on the 10 centimeter pot and rolling the ridges in it. And I found out that there's absolutely no consensus. Every person that was polite enough to put in a comment had a totally different idea. Some people didn't even want wicks on the pot. Some people wanted the whole pot wrapped with wick. Some people wanted it wrapped from one point to another, and other people wanted it wrapped from that point down. Like I say, some people wanted the whole thing wrapped. Some people didn't want it wrapped at all. So I'm going to have to work on this a little while longer and figure out, okay, the one thing that I have pretty much decided on is that I'm going to roll the ridges in, not out, for two reasons. One is, on the inside of the pot, it's a lot easier to wipe food off of a ridge than it is to wipe it out of a valley. So that makes it easier to clean the pot. If you got a little ridge there, you can wipe that out. The second thing is that if that ridge is out and you wrap wick on it, and you get your fingers down below the wick, the ridge sticks out as far as the wick, and I burned my finger doing it. I got my finger up high on the wick, and that ridge stuck right out, and I got my finger on the ridge and burned myself. I didn't care for that. So I think I'm going to roll them in, and I think I'm going to start rolling in the bottom one and roll right up to the top one, roll in it and back out of it, and then up a ways, maybe from there all the way up to the top. But because I don't want anybody to burn themselves. Now, I don't know whether to sell that pot with a lid or to sell it without a lid. There's some people will say, well, if you sell a pot, why don't you sell a lid with it? And other people will say, well, why do you sell it with a lid? I've already got a lid. I don't want to buy another one. So it's the same way with the nipple caps in the stove. You know, half of people will, this doesn't come with a nipple cap. You're too cheap to put a nipple cap with it. And other people say, why am I paying an extra $10 for a nipple cap? I've already got 3 of them. So you can't win. It's a lose-lose situation. So anyway, let me know what you think about whether I should include a lid or not. Because it's going to raise the price $10, you know. So anyway, I think that's the end of this video. It's been 11 minutes and 22 seconds. That's a fairly long video. I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design. Try to have a really great day and try to have some fun today. You deserve it. Bye-bye.